Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 2nd of October, comes to you from London. We start by looking at the dollar index. The dollar still holding its strength here, pushing higher again this morning. So that dollar strength really a feature there. If we look at the euro sinking lower. So still coming under pressure. The medium-term chart is bearish, short-term chart is bearish, and we still have some downside targets, some as much as 4% hanging over us. The longer-term targets are less clear, other than this very, very big one. But we'd need to move back below the 103 level, so that's a long way from where we are now. Looking at the yen, dollar looking a little bit weaker here, so yen a little bit stronger. Sterling back below the 130 level for the first time in a few weeks, so sterling weakness showing through there. 126.60 is the downside target. And against the euro, sterling also lower, and against the Swiss franc just kicking lower as well. And against sterling against the Australian dollar, looking a little bit stronger on a weaker dollar there. Bitcoin still struggling, bearish on most time frames, and we have these downside targets really hanging over us. The US market last night was mixed. The S&P 500 index was up on the NAFTA deal. The Nasdaq also pushed higher last night. And the Dow also was nudging higher, up some 0.75%. The Russell 2000 index just struggling there on the shorter term chart. So it's interesting to see the mix there. The futures down this morning in the US. The S&P future down nearly 0.25%. The Nasdaq down nearly 1/3%. The Nasdaq E-mini. So it does suggest the market will open lower. We're already seeing FTSE lower this morning in the UK market, actually still looking pretty weak. Mid caps still bearish on that short-term chart and the medium-term charts, so looking bearish here as well. The DAX actually heading lower, and the CAC 40 also down some 0.75% this morning. Looking at the Japanese market, we're pushing higher here, and the Hang Seng we're seeing also just struggling down some 2.4%. Chinese market actually bucking the trend a little bit, so still looking quite good short term, and the Sensex just still struggling on that shorter term chart. The ASX, the Aussie index, has turned bearish below the cloud, and Brent crude has been the real story, up above $85 this morning at one point, and we had these targets to the mid 80s, so we've got one here to 86 and another one to $94, so it'll be interesting to see if we can push all that way. WTI also looking strong, of course, so interesting to see there that we're pushing higher as well. 81 is the upside target here, $80.50 on the longer term chart, so it does look like we've got further to run. Keep an eye on those 1 minute charts for further moves. US natgas pushing to new highs. We're hitting new highs for the year so far. We're just pushing, well, high since January, $3.12, so looking stronger. So that's pretty bullish. Gold sitting at 11.94, just turning short-term bullish, and silver also holding on to its bullishness. US 10-year yields falling back to 3.05%, and German bonds jumping, so the yield falling, the bond rising. Apple pushing higher, Amazon also pushing higher, and Google also looking good. Facebook just really struggling still, back in those low 160s, and Microsoft breaking 115 for the first time, so looking really high there. Tesla, interestingly, fell away, and then on the news of Musk standing down as chairman, bouncing right back to where they were. So a lot of volatility here in Tesla. The 250 mark is really what counts. And actually taking a look at some of the constituent stocks, this is my Yahoo data. So looking at FTSE this morning, we have the utilities looking stronger. SSE, although it's a pretty bearish looking picture for the chart. United Utilities Group also bearish. We're seeing quite a lot of the utilities shares pushing higher but bearish on the charts. Meanwhile, BP, Royal Dutch Shell, as you would expect on that higher oil price, looking stronger there as well. So that's really interesting. And seeing other stocks such as Centrica all pushing higher. Still bearish on that long-term chart. The oil charts are really looking strong. If we look the other way, going for bearish, Royal Mail has been in the news a lot. Yesterday falling very dramatically, down further this morning. This chart has now become a very bearish picture. So remember, this is the daily and the weekly, the long-term picture. We've got a downside target some further 20% lower. Seeing airlines still struggling. EasyJet pushing lower again this morning, some down nearly 3%. Just Eat down 3%. So we are seeing some pretty big falls in the market. And financial shares down as well, Standard Life. We're seeing quite a lot of the banks in this territory as well. Taking a look at the NASDAQ, we can look at the NASDAQ 100 again. This data all coming from Yahoo. Going for the percentage change, here we see Tesla was the top performer in the 100, no surprise there. Nvidia just pushing higher, just constantly pushing up the hill, Nvidia. Netflix putting in a little bit of a recovery, so looks like it did find support on the cloud there, so still looking pretty bullish. And of course Microsoft we looked at, just pushing up the hill all the time. Looking at the bearish stocks in the Nasdaq, there were still quite a lot. Airlines suffering in the US as well. American Airlines down there. Stocks like Electronic Arts down some 2.4%, looking bearish on that medium term. So still a lot of a mixed picture amongst stocks, and we see here Facebook in the low 160s. We're seeing a very mixed picture, and that's creating a lot of uncertainty really for calling the market. We just do need to keep an eye on how that mix performs. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you.